Raftalia calling for us, but she was already far in the distance. Philo circled the village once before returning to the stables. Then it sat down and let me off. Are you all right? Raftalia looked worried as she ran over to me. Yeah, I'm fine. Philo is so fast. Philo didn't look tired in the least and soon turned to preening its feathers. Philo ran much quicker than I had been expecting. This might have been my best purchase yet. All right, that seems like enough for today. Let's head back to our room. Something had a grip on my armor's collar. I turned to see Philo there, looking back at me. What is it? Gah. It almost looked like it was crying. It kept barking at me. Huh? I gave up and turned to leave again, but once again it pulled at my collar. What is it? Gah. Philo's feet were digging into the ground, like it was determined to make a stand. What, you want to play more? Raftalia asked, and Philo shook its head. Could it understand what we were saying? Are you lonely? It nodded. Gah. It opened its wings and cried out. But there's nothing we can. I certainly didn't want to sleep in the stables, and I don't think the innkeeper would be happy if we brought a huge monster into the room. Let's stay with it until it falls asleep. Oh, okay. The thing was so big, but it had only hatched 2 days ago. Maybe it was still a baby, and just wasn't ready to be left on its own in the stables overnight. Raftalia and I decided to do our nightly study session in the stables. Philo sat in its nest and quietly watched us study. Picky. Geez, am I ever going to be able to read this stuff? If we can't find a shield to do it, then this is our only option. Besides, if you are always depending on that legendary shield, well, it's probably not best for you. Raftalia, you sure don't hold anything back these days. That's right. So let's get back to studying so that we can learn magic. What was so wrong with wanting things to be easier than they were? I hoped that all this work would actually amount to something. We kept on studying in the stables until we heard Philo's steady snores. Then we went back to the room, and I tried my hand at compounding some new herbs. I still couldn't read the recipes, so I was really just guessing. Chapter 5. Kick and Run. The next day Raftalia woke up with me, and we both went to the stables. Gah. When Philo caught sight of us it called out happily and ran over to greet us. Are you already all grown up now? Philo looked to have grown another head overnight. Already it looked to be the size of the full-grown Philolials I'd seen walking around town back at the castle. It was now white, with only very small tints of pink in places. It was pretty. Are you hungry? Gah? Philo turned its head to the side and looked confused. Good. So it was out of its growth spurt. Picky. There was that strange sound again. It was growing so fast that its body couldn't keep up. We ate breakfast and then sat down to discuss our plans for the day. The villagers all seemed very busy. They were bustling about making repairs. Gah. There was a cart being pushed down the road, filled with materials for repairs. Philo looked at, almost longingly. You want to pull that thing? Bet he does. What is it, hero? Raftalia and I were talking and pointing at the cart when a villager stopped by and asked. My Philolial was staring at that cart, so I was wondering if he wanted to pull it or something. Yes, Philolials are quite instinctual that way. The villager nodded in agreement and looked over at Philo. Everyone is so busy with the repairs, but we still need all the help we can get. Hero, if we promise to give you a cart, do you think you could help out? It wasn't a bad idea, and since I finally had a useful monster, it only made sense to put it to work. If it all went well, we could free up our own travel time to do other things. What do you need from us? They're cutting trees for lumber in a nearby forest. Do you think you could help carry the wood back to the village? The forest. Come to think of it, I hadn't visited that forest yet. It might take us a little time. Is that all right? Sure. We were talking it over when I saw someone I recognized from outside of the village. They were in a group, and were running over to us on a carriage pulled by a night dragon. The leader was in chainmail, with a blinding silver breastplate. He carried a conspicuous spear. That's right. It was Motoyasu and the bitch. They climbed down from the carriage. Hey, all you villagers, let's all gather around. Shall we? The busy villagers all set their work aside and started walking over to the intruders. Then the bitch unrolled a large sheet of parchment and started haranguing everyone. Citizens, in recognition for his glorious victories in the last wave of destruction, the king of these lands has granted this man, Motoyasu Kitamura, governorship over these territories. What? Governorship? To Motoyasu. Motoyasu, as if he could hear my thoughts, suddenly shouted, which means that I, the spear hero, am now in control here. I've been asked to oversee the reconstruction efforts. I expect your cooperation from here on out. Make sure that you have secured proper funding for your projects before you purchase materials. What? The majority of the villagers looked skeptical of their new leader. That was only natural. During the wave, when the village was under attack, what had the spear hero done for them? Nothing. And yet here he was, supposed to be their new leader? Of course they wouldn't accept this new appointment so easily. Besides, being given governorship for fighting a battle. Why was the crown so close to Motoyasu? You must be mistaken. You see, I am the governor here. A man in the crowd raised his hand and addressed Motoyasu. That, too, seemed natural. Why would anyone just roll over and accept a random new appointment? Granted, it was an official order, so I guess there wasn't much they could do by way of rebellion, but still, people were going to be aggravated. What are you implying? Are you going to disobey an order from your king? I'm not saying that, only that it seems odd that. Silence. The bitch sure seemed to think she ran the show. I really wanted to walk over and give her a hard smack across the face. But wait, did that mean that this village belonged to Motoyasu now? Damn it, that would mean that I had to move on. Again, the innkeeper had been letting us stay for free, so I was hoping to stay based in Ryute for as long as I could. What's this? Why are you here, no Fumi? He saw me in the crowd and called out to me. I've based my activities here. Huh? You mean you're still working in a spot like this? Oh man, that's the shield for you. Always way behind. You must understand that this village belongs to Motoyasu now, and he will not tolerate criminals on his lands. Get on your way. I really wanted to shut her up. So I guess this means that the bitch was really the one in control. But what did she want? I could only imagine. First order of business. There will now be a toll levied on those entering and exiting the village. If we don't, we will never be able to raise appropriate restoration funds. The fee due upon entrance will be 50 pieces of silver, and the fee upon exit will be 50 pieces of silver. That makes for a total of 1 gold piece. But that's, with taxes like that, we'll never be able to survive. Oh, it's not that much money. Motoyasu clearly had a warped sense of what money was worth to these people. A piece of gold was worth a lot of money for these people to live in relative comfort. They only needed 20 pieces of bronze a day. If you stayed in the inn, a piece of silver would get you a room and a good meal. Their new taxes were worth 100 days of life. Who could afford to eat with a tax like that? What is the problem? Does anyone take issue with our edict? Of course they do. The bitch glared at me when I spoke up. You've just been appointed governor, and then you show up and levy a huge tax on your first visit? Think about it. You know. He's kind of right. Mine. Think we could drop it to a level that the villagers can afford? Motoyasu asked mine. When he did, she turned to me with demonic fury in her eyes. Just as quickly, it vanished, and she was batting her eyelashes at Motoyasu. If we do not learn perseverance along with our pain, the village will never recover from this calamity. The previous governor may consider himself relieved by the authority of the crown. How dare you? The governor shouted in anger. The rest of the villagers were shouting also. Hey, that's not fair. What are you planning on doing for us? Now, do you know what it means to revolt against the crown? Perhaps we will have to teach you. Bitch raised her hand, and knights came sauntering into the village, mounted on their dragons. Were they planning on starting a fight? Violent fools. Motoyasu was looking at them impatiently, like he didn't like that he was being forced to stoop to this level. But he was the real criminal here. Hey, now if you don't. Then mine was suddenly surrounded by a group of men in black, like a group of ninjas. Hey. Ms. Mine, yes? Surely you have been informed of our arrival. We have brought a message for you. What is it? One of the ninjas stepped forward and handed her a rolled sheet of parchment. What, were they assassins or something? I guess things like that existed in this world too. The bitch stood there looking pissed off as she read from the parchment. Then all the color drained from her face. What was it? What did it say? Who the hell are you? We are employed by a certain someone. We have reason to believe you know of whom we speak. But answer them. This is no time to be feigning ignorance. I was about to yell at her when, it's a battle. The bitch exclaimed authoritatively. What? What was she even talking about? What battle? With who? Motoyasu also seemed to have no idea what was going on. You must race our dragons to determine the governorship of these lands. What the hell? I didn't know what was written on that parchment, but it couldn't have been something that stupid. If you don't, we won't relinquish control. After Mine shouted, the ninjas all began whispering amongst themselves. It sounded like they were talking about what to do once the new governor was appointed. Very well then, we will use the fastest monster in this village. No. Mine was pointing in my direction. I was gripping Philo's reins in my hand, and her finger moved to point at Philo. The shield hero will race for you. But what sense did it make to appoint me? I wasn't even from the village. The governor looked over at me and smiled. Shield hero, won't you please come to our aid? From what I saw yesterday, your Philolial is very quick on its feet. No way. Why should I be involved in all this? If you win, we can promise you just compensation. And if I lose? Nothing will happen to you. Besides, your Philolial looks like she wants to race, doesn't she? Philo was staring at the dragons and snapping her eyes from one to their next in quick succession. I had to tug on the reins. In a sudden fury, she seemed like she might dash off to attack Motoyasu and his cohorts at any moment. Considering the long-held enmity between dragons and Philolials, it seems only natural that the bird is ready to race them. It should be a good match. What a pain in the ass. Though I suppose I didn't stand to lose anything if we failed. What do you think, Mr. Nofumi? Well, I certainly didn't want to hang out in Motoyasu's territory, and I felt like it would be a shame to leave the village so soon after I'd gotten on good terms with the inhabitants, and I'd started to get a handle on the surrounding areas too. I would have to win if I wanted to stay. Fine then, let's do this. I slowly climbed up onto Philo's back and situated myself. Then I turned to Motoyasu. Ahaha, look at the guy on his plump chick. Bwahaha. His cohorts were holding their stomachs and laughing forcefully. I had no idea what they thought was so funny, but I couldn't stand being laughed at. I felt blood rising hot up my neck. What the hell, Motoyasu? I mean, I thought it was funny that you were walking around with that thing. And now you say you're going to race on it. Ahahaha. What the hell was so funny? Was I riding it wrong? What did they think I was doing with a Philolial anyway, if not to ride it? You look like a fool. First of all, dragons are way cooler than birds. Second of all, look at that thing. It's got pink all mixed up in its white feathers. Obviously you bought yourself a cheap bird. I don't know what color you think it should be. I still didn't get what was so funny about it. I was trying to figure it out when Motoyasu walked over to Philo, pointing and laughing the whole time. Gah. Philo reared back and kicked him hard in the crotch. I saw it. I saw his laughing face suddenly contort into an expression of confused pain. His whole body spun in drunken spirals, and he reeled back from the force of the kick. Ugh. Man, I'd never been so happy in my whole life. I hadn't even seen it coming. Happiness visits when you least expect it. Kaya. Oh, Mr. Motoyasu. Ahaha. That kick must have crushed his balls. It felt so good. That one kick was worth all the money I'd spent on Philo so far. That's my monster. It was getting revenge for me. Philo, you'll eat good tonight. I'll see to that. Gah. Coward. How dare you attack Mount Motoyasu? The race hasn't started yet, and besides, if you walk up to a monster and laugh at them, what do you expect? Ugh. You bastard. Motoyasu tottered to his feet. His hands cradled his crotch. The sweat oozing down his face made his pain evident. I ran my hand over Philo's head. "So, are we going to start this race?" "Of course." We couldn't be sure he wouldn't try something sneaky, but all we could do is stay on our toes and get it over with. The bitch untied a dragon from the cart it had been hitched to, and Motoyasu climbed up onto its back. The race will consist of 3 laps around the village. The villagers ran off to draw lines in the dirt, demarcating the course. "Good luck, Mr. Nofumi and Philo. You take care of him, okay?" "Sure. Gah. I'll win, I swear it." The governor stood before the 2 of us and raised his hands into the air. When they fell, the race would be on. "Ready, go." His hands fell quickly, and we were off. Our starting dash put us pretty much head to head. Philo was running at a good, relaxed pace, its cadence at a steady and pleasant rhythm. If we were comparing our speed to Motoyasu's, it seemed like Philo was faster. This should be an easy win. We had enough of a lead that I ventured a backward glance. "What's wrong with you? Run faster." Motoyasu was desperately shouting orders at his dragon. The dragon, not wanting to lose to Philo, put in more effort and started running harder. Even still, it couldn't keep up. Philo's specs must have been higher. It was like a motorcycle versus a motorized bicycle. Naturally, Philo was the motorcycle in this case, whereas Motoyasu was stuck with a motorized bicycle. That's how much faster we were. "Gah!" Philo shouted in joy, as if to show off how confident we were with our lead. It was like being on a motorcycle. We cut through the wind, and the village flew by, just strips of color in my periphery. We finished the first lap, and we must have been 5 body lengths or more in the lead. "Damn." The bitch was cursing us in frustration. Ahaha. It was all so easy, and it felt so good. The villagers were gathering around the course to watch us when it happened. "I am the source of all power. Hear my words and understand them well. I command a hole to appear before me. Earth hole." I was watching to make sure that the castle knights didn't step into the course, when a hole opened up right in front of me. "Coward." The knights turned their faces away, apparently unaware of what they were being accused of. Philo's foot clipped the side of the hole, and we went down. "Gah? There's my chance." "What's your chance, jerk?" Motoyasu was unperturbed by my protests, and he spurred his dragon on. "But I am the source of all power. Hear my words and understand them well. I demand his speed be increased." Fast speed. So someone was casting support magic on Motoyasu, and whoever had done it had also caused Philo to trip on their hidden magic hole. What was wrong with the people in this country? "Philo, we can't lose to people like this. Let's go." "Gah." Philo climbed to her feet, and she chirped, as if to say that now she was serious. She took off running, faster now even than she had been before. Before long, we were running alongside Motoyasu again. What? Like we'd lose, and let him cheat his way to victory. Philo was running like she knew how I felt. Even though Motoyasu had been sped up, we still were able to make up the space between us. By the time the second lap was over, we were in sight of the villagers again, and I angrily thrust my finger at Motoyasu, taking care that they could all see my signal. The villagers were pressing in to see what had changed. "I am the source of all power. Hear my words and understand them." Slow his speed. Fast speed down. "Gah?" Philo suddenly slowed down. "What the hell are you doing?" The gathered knights all turned away, as if they had no idea what I was talking about. Motoyasu caught up with us and then passed us. Certainly he had to know that people were going to notice. How cowardly can a guy get? Damn it, if this kept up, we would lose. I couldn't stand to think of it. There must have been something we could do. Gah. Philo must have been angry too. She called to make her dissatisfaction evident before dramatically opening her wings and leaning forward. Hey now. She was running even faster, but it was harder to control her in the turns. When we went around a corner, she had to take the outside line. But I still knew something about racing from games. In bike racing games, you could lean into the corners to make the bike turn quicker. I thought I should give it a try. We came up on a corner, and I shifted my weight to help head her around it. I leaned towards the direction of the curve. It must have looked like I was hanging off of Philo's stomach. But it worked. Philo was able to turn the corner without lowering her speed. Yes, we were starting the third lap and we'd overtaken Motoyasu once again. All we could do now was run to the end. The villagers had gathered around the knights and were watching them close to see that there were no further interruptions that should have made victory as good as ours. But then the knights drew their swords, and the villagers scattered. Everything was chaos. I could see someone among the knights beginning to chant yet another spell, if that's how they wanted to play. I had some tricks of my own. Airstrike shield. They had called for another hole to appear in the racing lane, but I summoned my shield to cover it. Go Philo. Did? Who are you talking about? Who was the one casting spells? I pointed at the unconscious knight. What are you implying? That guy was casting all sorts of spells to hinder our progress. That's cheating. Wait. Was he really? Motoyasu chimed in, acting as if he had been unaware the whole time. Like I'd forget that he'd shouted. Now's my chance. I don't know anything about that. Even if he did cheat, what's that got to do with us? We demand justice. So she only wants justice when she loses? Ha, give me a break. It didn't look that way to me. All of the villagers nodded in agreement with the governor's announcement. Just as the shield hero was saying, there are marks on the course left to my magical spells. We ran to chase off the knights. So the proof is still there. That's right. We kicked that knight at the end so that he wouldn't be able to cover up what he had done. The villagers now surrounded him. If we just went to see the huge hole still in the racing lane, anyone would know, right off the bat, who was to blame. The shield hero planted that to make us look bad. No, he did not. What? The lady from the magic shop appeared from the crowd of villagers. Oh yeah, she had a grandchild here. She'd said the shield hero can only use support and restorative magic. The girl with him can only use light and dark magic, and therefore neither of them could have formed these holes in the earth. Oh, great. The stupid magic shop lady thinks she knows everything now. Just as the bitch shouted, the ninjas appeared again to surround her. It appears obvious that the spear hero was the recipient of unfair support. Please come with us. Motoyasu spoke softly, and tried to calm the bitch down. We've lost this one, and therefore, as promised, we relinquish control of this village. Right, so get the hell out already. I won't lose next time. You lose all the time, coward. I am not a coward. Spear hero, this is no time to fight. You neither, shield hero. The ninjas admonished the Motoyasu gang, and they all left together. They left the dragon behind. We don't need a dragon that lost to the shield. Leave it. Kayuu. The dragon let out a pitiful cry, and was left behind. The poor thing. It's not like he had done anything wrong. A group of villagers walked over and pat the dragon's head before taking its reins in hand. Let's keep him in the village. Good idea. The dragon walked beside the villagers. Its head hung low. I won, so give me my prize. Mr. Nofumi. Just like that? This village owes you so much, shield hero. Had they imposed a tax the likes of what they were discussing, it would have been the end of our village. Even still, can you wait a few days? If so, we can provide you with funds as well. Don't you need the money to make repairs? You know us well. What's the point in digging into your repair funds just to pay me? That's not good for anyone. No thanks, but I appreciate the offer. The last thing I wanted was to end up indebted to anyone. Besides, it would not have helped my bruised reputation. Everyone would think I shook the village down for money. Then we will provide you with something very convenient indeed. Tell me, hero, do you have any interest in traveling sales? Traveling sales? Yes, like when you walk from village to village, town to town, and sell wares. It appears that you are supporting yourself by selling materials and medicines. If you have any interest, we could help you with such matters. Huh. Did they mean a traveling merchant of some sort? In other words, instead of selling to apothecaries, I would sell directly to customers. I'd have to give it some thought. Up until now, I'd been focused on the production side of things, but if I did what they suggested, I'd get in on the sales side of things too.